So thank you everyone for joining us today. As you probably know, we're going to be talking about the 5 tips for founders when negotiating SR&ED. Today with us, we have 2 of our directors of business development, Nicholas Mejia and Joshua Martin. I'm going to hand it over to them. And just so you guys know, if there are any questions throughout the presentation, please just put them in chat and we will answer them at the end of the presentation. All right, guys, take it away.
Hey, everyone. Thanks for taking the time to join. I'm Joshua, based out of Montreal, and I handle our Quebec and Atlantic Canada business along with my good colleague, Nicholas. I'll let him introduce himself and then kind of jump briefly into the why behind this webinar and why we really recommend reevaluating your SR&ED offering, or even, starting to, hopefully you can leave this call with some tips and tricks on how to negotiate with your SR&ED consultant and how to even shop around if it's your first time. I'll hand it off to Nicholas.
Absolutely. A pleasure to be here. Excited for this conversation. It would be more than a classroom or something, a conversation with experiences, and the goal is to put together a quick meeting, a quick conversation about what we've seen in the market, conversations with prospects, clients, and the idea is for you guys to leave this session with something tangible and usable that you can apply tomorrow when either negotiating your first SR&ED contract or coming back to your current supplier or your current provider and ask them again, how can we do to improve my current conditions or negotiations? So that's the goal of today. Very excited.
To kind of build off what Nicholas said, and then of course dive into this first point, it's worth taking. SR&ED is something that people kind of like to put on the back burner and wait till the end of the year to approach. I recommend, trying to negotiate as soon as you can with your current provider, because it could be the difference of, several $100,000s in claim size if you do it in the right way with the right consultant. It kind of flows perfectly into our first tip that we have here today, which is we really recommend using the proactive approach rather than the fire drill approach. For those who've already had the pleasure of claiming SR&ED on the call, what typically happens is at the end of the year, your consultant or your firm will, frantically ask you what were your major projects, what were your major technical challenges, and try to go back on a whole fiscal period and gather different documentation, different insights, different information they need to put together a claim. And this kind of, what we call it, is kind of a fire drill approach, can kind of take a lot of time from founders, tech leads, CTOs, CFOs at kind of a key period. So it's the end of your fiscal period, and it kind of bleeds into the start of your next year. So we actually really recommend the proactive approach. So really sitting with your, push your consultant to sit quarterly, monthly, any cadence that you think you can invest in to start to build the claim really throughout the fiscal period. The next 2 slides kind of show that really well. It's, if you commit, an hour a quarter, you end up becoming more efficient and saving that time at the end of your fiscal year, because it's, once again, that documentation that you need is usually closer. Your memory is more fresh, or you're able to kind of remember those technical details, and it leads to a larger claim at the end of the year with time saved. So we really push this kind of common sense proactive approach. Is our kind of one of our first tips. You can see it in the next slide as well. Really does a great job saying, hey, take the time. An hour a quarter can, save you time at the end of the year. The other thing that I'll mention, a quick plug from Boast, is, we're going to integrate directly into your systems, gather data through our platform. So we're almost combining these kind of quarterly check-ins with our data integrations with the final goal, of course, increasing your claim size, billing them as if they're going to be audited, and of course, saving you much precious time. I'll hand it off to Nicholas for tip 2. I think this one is pretty interesting, and it kind of talks about that, once again, that internal calculus that companies have to make between, should I go out for a consultant? Should I keep doing it internally? I'll let Nicholas tackle that one.
Absolutely. And before we jump to tip number 2, final note on tip number one would be, it's kind of changing the approach to shred from an accounting end of year, I do when I have time type of project, to a more proactive strategic approach. So at the end of the day, the salaries for a software company, for instance, are the biggest line item in the P&L. And having visibility and having a better understanding, strategically speaking, what is the money that potentially the company could receive back in the form of shred, it becomes a strategic tool to make decisions moving forward. So a proactive approach is something that we highly recommend for these purposes. Absolutely. And tip number two would be around cost analysis. Usually, very often, companies are deciding to jump in the shred creation or preparation by themselves when there's time to claim shred. And that's totally fine. I mean, there's an opportunity for a company understanding the technology to do it. However, our invitation in this point or around this conversation is, if you are going to do that, let's put or try to put all the elements that are involved in the creation of a shred claim at the same level and do a full analysis of doing it in-house or doing it with an external consultant. Why is important to that? To identify what is the cost of resource allocation. So how many hours are you going to invest, and what are the profiles of those employees investing on creating a shred project? Usually, you have your high paid salaries or high paid employees involved in the projects such as shred, which is most likely your CTO, sometimes CEO, sometimes presidents of the company doing this, which is it's an interesting and insignificant cost. The second thing is claim size and audit risk. We've seen and heard often companies trying to reduce the size of the claim and going conservative at the beginning, trying to avoid any audit, or basically having the audit risk reduced at the maximum, with the concept that if I don't do the maximum claim I can do, potentially I'm not going to get an audit, which is a misconception that affects at the end of the day the total refund you get. And finally, what is the opportunity cost? What is the opportunity cost of dedicating 60, 80, 120 hours per year building a shred project, when potentially those employees could be helping building the technology, a new feature, a new release, or actually making your company moving forward in terms of competition or new features to the market. So in all, our call here is do the analysis internally and externally, what is best for you, but there's significant advantages of doing, obviously, and outsourcing this project to a company, a consultant, or a firm that is doing it in a more comprehensive way. And then talking about the contract and conversation negotiation, I have the question for you, Joshua, and potentially that leads us to tip number three, which is, how do we get paid? And this is a common question that everyone asks all the time. So what are the ways of a contract, a shred program, to be paid to the consultants that are working with you?
Yeah, first of all, I think that's the most common question we get asked for people that are kind of new to the shred program. And I think it like you said, it feeds perfectly into the kind of the transparency in cost structures. There are a couple different types of ways that shred consultants are paid. I think understanding the different cost structures is important. First, we're going to see kind of a flat fee. So this can be generally it's like a fixed dollar amount, ranging from 20, 25, 30, even 45,000 flat. That's kind of one way we see in the market base. Otherwise, we can see kind of an hourly a billing rate, generally from like accountants. Takes an accountant 30, 40, 50 hours of work, billed at several $100s. That invoice can grow pretty quickly. And then kind of the final category is a contingency approach. So contingency, they're going to take a percentage of the total claim. These types of cost structures generally take form in two types of ways. First of all, you're going to see kind of a flat rate. So they'll take anywhere from 15 to 20, can go as low as 10% of the claim, Or you can see a tiered approach from contingency. So, 20% on the first 100,000 in claim, 15% on the next 100,000, and then 10% on everything above. There's a lot of different variants in cost structures. I have the pleasure of looking at all types of different agreements from different consultants all over Canada, and there's a lot of variants. You'll see all four of these types of cost structures all over the place. And kind of my message for here today is make sure that you're comparing the effective rate with each between all cost structures, not just seeing that kind of first percentage amount or that tempting low dollar amount. Understanding the effective rate you're paying is the first step, in my opinion. And then the second step is, what are you getting from that actual rate? So are audits included? That's kind of the feeds perfectly into our tip number 4, and understanding a transparent cost structure is what's included, what's your effective rate, and the kind of elephant in the room is SR&ED is always that audit question. So that's kind of something I would pass to you, Nicholas, is what are kind of, in an effort to kind of align interests with your SR&ED consultant, what are kind of the main factors in that goal? Is it audits? Is it contingency? I don't know where exactly you want to start with it. Maybe audits is a good place, but what should a founder, a CFO, a CTO be aware of when they're looking at different SR&ED agreements?
Yeah, absolutely. And also this involves the answering the question, what is included on the negotiation? And obviously it's important to mention, are we talking about the proactive or retroactive approach? Do you have technology to do a SR&ED claim or not? Is it done paper? Do I need to send you emails all day long with all my information? Do I need to go back and start opening up my Jira or my GitHub or my Excel sheet and basically doing CSV file and export all this to you? What is included on the SR&ED operation? The second thing that is important to ask is, who is building my claim? Like, what is the profile of the person who is writing the claim, understanding my technology, asking about the financial component. Every project has a financial component and a technical component. So what is the profile of the employees helping me build this claim? Ideally, it should be someone that understands the technology. SR&ED by default is not an accounting project, it's a technical conversation. And understanding the technology is the foundation to build a claim that is going to be eligible, and also with grounds for a defendable claim down the road. And the final piece that is very important is audits. What happens if the CRA sends me a letter and saying, okay, I need information about the claim that you submitted a couple of weeks or months ago, and now we're going to full financial and full technical review. And the question and the recommendation here instead should be, make sure that during the negotiation or included in the pricing that Joshua just mentioned is included, but not only, yes, we will help you with the audit, like break down for me what is exactly your support if I'm being invited to be in an audit session with the CRA. Why is this important? We've seen cases where, for instance, when this hourly rate or hourly based negotiation, you pay just potentially something small upfront to create or build your claim, and then you're invited to present an audit, and the amount of hours that are invested from you and your accounting team or consultant team are going to be even higher than the effort required to build the claim. So the invoice on the audit will be even bigger than the invoice on preparation. So those type of horror stories and surprises that we've seen in the market are the ones that we're trying to prevent from happening. And the best way to do it is making sure at the beginning it's extremely clear, are we having an audit support? What is included? What is the extent of your support? And how are you going to help me in the event of an audit?
And
so,
Nicholas,
yeah, absolutely.
To jump in, I think it's essential. This is like my personal recommendation, but to push your consultant to have audit protection included. in your pricing structure.
I agree
The
100%.
reason for this is that alignment of incentives. That's kind of the common tip that we have here throughout all our advice and from what we've seen in the market. If your consultant if the audit is included, your consultant is incentivized to make sure that the claim is robust and that he has the documentation ready to prepare and defend an audit. So they're not just incentivized to put some work together, submit it quickly, and then they can bill you more in the case that you're audited. They're incentivized to, right from the get-go, build the most robust claim needed as if it's going to be audited, and the audit will go by as smoothly as possible. So I love that point on, push to have the audit included, push your consultant to align the incentives. And I think it flows kind of perfectly into our fifth tip here. Flexible contracts and kind of exit strategies. This is another one where for me, it's just as simple as lining up incentives with your shred consultant. What we see in the marketplace is all sorts of different types of agreements, all sorts of different types of lengths of the agreement, exit terms. There's a lot of variance here, similar to pricing, similar to whether audits are included or not. There's not kind of an industry norm here. You're going to see stuff all over the place. What we recommend is, once again, understand what's in the agreement and push for an easy exit strategy. Why? Just in case, the quality of the work or the quality of the service that you're getting from your provider is not up to par. You should make sure you're not locked in for 3 years to this subpar service, because that could mean, quite a bit of money on the table or quite a bit of additional work for you. So we really recommend making sure that in these agreements, there's an easy way out. So you can shop around to other consultants in case you need to. So once again, make sure that you understand in clear language what the exit strategy is in these agreements. And furthermore, we generally recommend shorter term agreements. Why? Shorter term agreements force your provider to keep you based on the quality of the work that they're delivering, not some convoluted contract that kind of keeps you trapped in. So it's back to that game of aligning incentives. If your provider has to fight for your business every year for the quality of their work, I think that's beneficial to any founder, any CTO, any CFO, rather than them just being able to rely on this, long-term agreement with kind of really complex, exit structure.
Question for you: Have you seen contracts being renegotiated to evaluate potentially the service is great, potentially the approach is good? How about pricing? I mean, for a new company building a new shred claim, starting a new company, probably technology, a couple of people building it, but then this company exploded, and the potential for shred is huge based on what they have. What happens there? Like if I have a flat fee structure, is it possible to reopen the negotiation? What is recommendation on pricing specifically, even if I want to stay with the same supplier or say?
So generally there's room to negotiate, but to put yourself in a better position to negotiate with your current shred provider, you have to understand what's out in the market. So you have to talk to other shred consultants, get a read on if they can service the size and the scope of your claim at a better price or with better service. So I think the point of today's call is to give founders, CFOs, other decision makers the tools to go out and shop around and show them that it is worth it to take that little moment to reevaluate their current offering. We hope these kind of tips and tricks help them, do that. But the final point also is, it is always worth the time to shop around. I think, Nicholas, you have a great example about, we shop around for a lot of different products and services that we use regularly. We should make sure that we're doing that for shred as well. So we're always looking to improve our internal processes. Shred is an essential one, given the generosity of the program. We shouldn't just kind of sit back and have it sitting in a drawer for 10 years. I believe that's your I think I stole your famous phrase. So, take the time, look around, talk to different consultants, understand their agreements. I think at the end of the day, every company, will find a lot of value in taking, an hour to shop around in the marketplace and use these kind of tips and tricks to navigate this very, diverse market with tons of different, offerings, agreements, structures out there.
Absolutely. And just to wrap up, our goal is to, again, bring back SR&ED from an afterthought, someone that is doing it at the end of the year, to a more active, proactive, strategic approach for your company. And if that is the case, eventually bringing that folder out of the drawer and having it more present in your day-to-day life, not only for your CFO or CEO, but as well for your technical employees, understanding, okay, what is the work that I'm doing? Is this SR&ED eligible work or not SR&ED eligible work? So it creates an understanding of what are we doing? Why are we doing this? What are we doing? How can I report as a SR&ED work? And potentially it's going to be a much easier way. And most importantly, you can maximize the type of work you include in your SR&ED claim. So that's exactly what we wanted to bring today. As a summary, there are 5 tips for a successful negotiation, a SR&ED negotiation in the marketplace. And our invitation to everyone who is attending this conversation is bring back the conversation to your supplier, your consultant. If you already have a supplier, which we believe you are, if you're in provinces such as Quebec, call them again and ask them, okay, what is my why are we doing end of the year approach? I want to explore different opportunities. I'm doing it with you, but what is the involvement that you're getting? I'm paying you potentially on the cost structure a flat fee, but why am I doing the technical writing? What if you take the technical writing on your side and let me show the quality? So adding these conversations potentially will improve the negotiation, the conditions, and most importantly, the outcome out of the SR&ED claim that you will have. So that's what we have for today. Joshua, do you have any closing thoughts or ideas for our audience today?
No, I think you're totally right. I love that call to action. Take the little bit of time to reevaluate your offering. It could save you, even if it's just an incremental 10 or 20% increase in your claim size or a 10 to 20% decrease in your internal workload. I mean, that given the size and scope of SR&ED and the generosity of the credit, that can be easily in the hundreds of thousands of dollars for many of the companies on this call. So I reiterate your call to action, Nicholas. Take the time, reevaluate your SR&ED offering, and hopefully you those on the call found some value from these tips and tricks.
Thank you so much, Joshua, for this time. Great conversation. I'll pass it to Alana to wrap up and some logistic topics after. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. So for everyone on today's call, we're going to be sending out a checklist, a SR&ED checklist to you guys. Gonna have a lot of qualifiers for eligibility, requirements of what can be approved and not for work and or projects, types of expenditures, calculating overhead costs, and much more. So we're going to be sending that out to you guys. We're also going to send out the copy of the slides that we just presented, along with a link to the on-demand webinar, so you can review it at a later date as well. I think that's about it for housekeeping notes. Thank you everyone for coming. This again was presented by Joshua and Nicholas, who are experts in the field and really know their stuff when discussing SR&ED eligibility, claims, audits, everything as mentioned above. So if you guys have any questions after today, please reach out to either Joshua or Nicholas, yeah, we can get you in touch with an expert to go over your claims or any questions that you have after the fact. So thank you everyone, and yeah, look forward to chatting to everyone at a later date. All right, we will end off. Thanks so much.